Thank you. Arkansas House Democrats are proud to present the 2025 Better Arkansas Agenda. We spent a lot of time this year talking to Arkansans in every corner of the state. It's why 2 weeks ago, Arkansas House Democrats bucked the national trend and gained in the House for the first time in 20 years. In big cities, small towns, and rural areas, you told us about the problems that matter to you. Not enough doctors and nurses, worries about public education under attack, mental illness and substance abuse tearing apart families and communities, and leaders that seem more concerned with preserving their own power than fixing these real problems. Well, Democrats have been listening, and we agree. It's time to change how we do business in the state and put people first again. That's why we took the things you told us you care about and made that our 2025 Better Arkansas agenda. If passed, these bills, which we'll file tomorrow, will take Arkansas from worst to first in maternal health, make our public schools the envy of the nation, finally tackle our mental health crisis, and fortify our democracy. This agenda, like Arkansans, is not about ideology. It's about results. Democrats have all types in our Big Tent: progressives, moderates, conservatives, and more. Good ideas can come from anywhere. Our approach is to find what works for the people of this state and fight for it. As Democrats, we recognize we are currently in the minority. That doesn't mean we tuck our tails and go home. We're coming out with a bold agenda that would make a huge difference for Arkansas families. Why? One, we want to make it clear what we stand for, who we stand for, you, and how we'll lead once you give us the chance again. Two, we plan on fighting for these bills. We truly welcome Republicans who want to work with us to pass them. If they want to steal our ideas, like when we propose to increase teacher salaries to $50,000, we welcome that too. Either way, Democrats are getting the job done for Arkansans. And if Republicans say no to these bills, which would make life better for the people of Arkansas, then we'll make our case that Democrats deserve the chance to lead again. We are ready to deliver on maternal health, public education, mental health, and our democracy. We are ready to deliver a better Arkansas. Now I'd like to invite some of my fellow House Democrats to talk about our priorities, starting with Ashley Hudson, who's going to speak about how we can take Arkansas from worst to first in maternal health. Ashley.
Thank you, and good afternoon, everyone. The situation right now in Arkansas is bleak for mothers and babies in Arkansas. I'm sure that all of you have seen the state of infant maternal health in the March of Dimes recent report card, which gave Arkansas an F grade on maternal health and infant mortality. We actually managed to fail even worse than we have in previous years this year. We're now one of the very worst states in the entire country to have a baby and to be a mother. Currently, new Arkansas moms and their babies only have 60 days of health insurance coverage following birth. We are the only state now in the entire country that hasn't provided a year of postpartum Medicaid coverage. While the governor convened a task force on maternal health to make legislative recommendations to improve these outcomes, it was made clear from the very beginning that certain ideas weren't on the table, including increasing our postpartum coverage to 12 months. We know without a doubt that one of the most effective, least expensive ways that we could protect moms and babies in this state is to offer them health care coverage for the first 12 months after birth instead of cutting it off at 60 days. House Democrats now have a plan to take Arkansas from worst to first in maternal health. We would extend postpartum Medicaid coverage for new moms to 12 months after birth. We'd also get pregnant women insured earlier in their pregnancies so that they can get the prenatal care that they need. We'd improve reimbursement rates and invest in scholarships to get more doctors and nurses throughout the state, but especially in rural areas. We'd also double funding for nurse midwives. We'd repeal our extreme abortion ban and stand up for victims of rape and incest, women dying during pregnancy and childbirth, and parents making agonizing decisions with their doctors when fatal fetal abnormalities are discovered. We plan to make these priorities for a couple of reasons. One, because it's the right thing to do for Arkansas women. They deserve to be able to control their bodies. And two, because our ban on abortion is causing us to lose OB-GYNs in the state that we need to meet these needs. In addition, we'll stand up for IVF, bring comprehensive health education into our public schools, and we'd ease some of the financial burden on new moms with a child tax credit. No sales tax on feminine products, diapers, and baby feeding equipment, and we'd incentivize paid maternity leave. Democrats are here for families in Arkansas. Thank you.
Thank you, and now Chair Shepherd will speak about public education.
Good afternoon, and thank you all for being here today. I would like to address the fact, along with my colleagues, that 95% of Arkansas kids attend public schools. Public schools instill the academic, life, and career skills to help countless kids achieve their dreams. The teachers and the staff who work at our schools are some of the most dedicated, compassionate, and people we will ever meet. Because public schools serve every community, they reflect the state. Wealth and privilege in some areas, and poverty in other areas. In thriving areas, public schools deliver great results. In struggling areas, the challenges presented at the schoolhouse door can overwhelm the school's capacity to serve despite the tireless efforts of teachers and staff. So we have an achievement gap. The way to bridge that gap is to provide investments, innovation, and support to school personnel, especially in high needs areas. Rather than take on the necessary work at fixing public education, some have given up on public education altogether, defunding our public schools and giving away hundreds of millions of dollars to unaccountable private schools, owned schools, pop-up schools, and the promise and educational vendors through vouchers. I apologize. Democrats believe in the promise of public education. We reject the voucher model. Our focus is to make sure that public schools that serve 95% of Arkansas's children are excellent. We would expand pre-K and boost the early childhood workforce. We'd embrace the community school model of wraparound services in high needs areas, which is proven to work. We take on the literacy coach program, which is actually a good part of learners, but it's underfunded and appropriately funded so that it can help kids. We finally correct the moral failure of underfunding public special education, which is a problem stretching back for years. We'd improve working conditions and pay for teachers and staff to make sure we can recruit and keep educators. We'd make college and technical schools accessible for every Arkansan, and we ban book bans. Make no mistake about it here today. Public education is under attack in the state of Arkansas, but we can bring it back. And if we do, we'll do right by all our children, and they will benefit the most. Thank you.
Thank you, and now I'd like to introduce Nicole Clowney to talk about mental health in Arkansas.
When you think about a lot of the really big problems in our society, crime, poverty, unstable families, mental illness and substance abuse are often at the heart of the matter. Mental health is a really tough challenge nationwide. Arkansas ranks among the worst states in confronting it. For years, the legislature has had a mental health working group, and that's been a great start, but it isn't enough. Because when it comes to our budget, if it's not tax cuts for the wealthy, vouchers, or a new prison, it hasn't been a top priority. As a result, there never seems to be enough money for real investment in things like mental health. It doesn't have to be this way. Democrats believe it's time to put people first and take on mental health. The first step is to improve access to care by fixing our shortage of behavioral health providers. We can do that by increasing reimbursement rates and building out the provider pipeline with scholarships and residencies. Kids need extra attention when it comes to mental health. So we're calling for more counselors and social workers in schools, better training for school staff, and protection for kids online. And we need to confront the pervasive impact of mental illness in our criminal justice system with a red flag law to reduce gun violence, crisis stabilization units for people suffering with an acute mental health crisis, and a second state hospital in Northwest Arkansas to unjam the pre-trial evaluation backlog that is causing people to languish in our county jails for months before trial at huge financial and human expense. We'll only be able to build a better Arkansas if we're willing to take on our toughest challenges. Mental health is tough, but it's time. We've kicked the can long enough. Finally, I'd like to introduce Representative Jesse Magruder to talk about defending our democracy.
Thank you to all of my colleagues who are standing here with me. We have several issues we're going to attack here in Arkansas, but voting is a very important issue. From ballot initiatives to the Freedom of Information Act, where I'm seeing the consequences when politicians try to change rules that benefit themselves instead of benefiting the people of Arkansas. That's why we're going to put in defense of democracy the heart of our agenda. It begins with voting, which should be both easy and secure. Not like in Crittenden County, where we didn't have access to voting. You should be able to register to vote online at any time, including on election day. You should also be able to vote absentee ballot without needing an excuse up until election day. And if you do come to the polls and find yourself waiting in line for hours, it should not be a crime for you to get water from somebody. As important as voting is, so is the integrity of how we draw district lines. The very lines that determine who you get to vote for. Right now, those lines are being drawn by politicians who predictably draw the lines to favor someone that they have chosen. But we need people who are bipartisan drawing these lines. We should also restore the ability of ordinary citizens to petition for change to law when the great strength of Arkansas is the political system. And believe it or not, slavery is still legal on Arkansas prison farms and in manufacturing plants. That practice should be banned immediately. Finally, Democrats believe that sunlight is the best disinfectant. The Freedom of Information Act ensures transparency and accountability, which is why politicians have been trying to weaken it in recent years. We will put in the Constitution to protect it from future attacks. We will also shine a light on the dark money influencing judicial races, because you have the right to know who's trying to buy a seat on the bench. When democracy is healthy, the people rule. And that's a better Arkansas. And we need a better Arkansas.
Thank you very much. Happy to take any questions.
The Republicans have a supermajority in both houses. How do you plan on getting this legislation through with that in mind?
Absolutely. Well, the only way these bills will pass at this moment is with Republican support. So we invite and welcome Republican support. We plan on working with any Republican who wants to work with us to get these passed. That said, the choice is theirs, and if they choose not to work with us to pass these bills, we'll simply make the case that you need to support our agenda and our candidates in order to get these bills passed.
So the bills that you're going to introduce tomorrow, do any of them have Republican co-sponsors?
No, these are all filed by one person, me, and so we're going to take that as the first step and then bring on co-sponsors and other sponsors among our caucus at that point. We didn't do that at the beginning. We're going to do that at this point after filing. Yes?
Do you think that you might end up with the issue again where, similar to the Lawrence Act, you have some things that you all support, like increased teacher pay and literacy coaches, that are attached to, again, the same bill, things that you really don't support, like school vouchers. Do you think that that might happen again with Republican-introduced, Republican-backed bills? And I know there was a separate teacher pay bill last session that didn't go forward. Do y'all have a plan or some thoughts on how to push back on that?
Yeah, that's a strategy that people use when they have things that are unpopular that they want to pass with popular components. And obviously, there are some things that are simply poison pills, and you have to vote no if you disagree with that bad aspect, and Lawrence was one of those classic examples. It had things in it that were good, but it was intentionally packaged with vouchers, which were very harmful to public education, and that's why Democrats did not support that bill, and that's why a member of Republicans didn't either. Yes, I do expect that'll continue to come up. It's a strategy that people use in legislative bodies all over the world.
I have two things. What are y'all proposing for teacher pay? That was my understanding that y'all are wanting to increase that. And then two, more specifically, it sounded like y'all are wanting to do something to address the abortion ban. What does legislation look like that addresses that?
Sure. So on the first point, teacher pay, $50,000 minimum salary was Arkansas Democrats' proposal in the RAISE Act in 2023. That was adopted into LEARNS from our previous RAISE Act. So the minimum teacher salary at $50,000, we're glad that passed, and we don't have any further change to that at this point. The Restore Roe Act is a bill that we proposed. It would simply roll back a lot of the additional restrictions that were put on abortion over the last primarily 10 or so years, and actually restore to what the standard was back in the 1980s, where pre-viability, it is a woman's choice. Post-viability, there are narrow exceptions for rape for incest, the minor, as well as the health or life of a mother. So those are exceptions that were in law before. We're not adding them, we're just taking back some of the other restrictions that had changed the law so much over recent years.
And then I know you said there aren't any Republican co-sponsors. Are y'all looking to add any of those? Do you think any of these pieces of legislation have a chance at having bipartisan support?
I think they absolutely do. I would be surprised if there wasn't significant bipartisan support for many of these bills. We would welcome Republican co-sponsors. Absolutely, I think that's how the legislative process works.
A lot of Democrats chose to go on to public health, so is there a deliberate strategy in that? Is there something that you're looking to potentially block from the Republicans on Medicaid, for instance?
Public health is an important committee. It was based on these legislators' interest in that committee. I imagine there will be some things that we would like to block, but we don't. Beyond that, I would just say we'll see. Any other questions? Thank you guys for being here. Appreciate it, and you're welcome to find me after and we can talk further. Thanks.